And we're live.
What's going on?
Hey, Sean.
Hey, Coach.
How are you, buddy?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you, man. I love that you reached out to just kind of tip me to the fact that you're in a really good place. And while I think you would always be a great interview, particularly for my show, the idea of all in, like you epitomize the all in philosophy. So that's kind of a no brainer. But I appreciate you reaching out, just saying, man, it's been what'd you say, 18 months? Did you say it's been a really interesting,
Been,
what period of time?
but yeah, I'd say the last 18 months were kind of game changer. Like things that
Yeah,
I shifted that just more mentally than anything
yeah,
else, but just
yeah.
some eye-opening things I did that just have truly changed like where I'm at today.
Nice. So here's what I would love for you to do, man. I would love for you to, my audience is primarily the mortgage industry, but not exclusively. You've
Mhm.
got all kinds of people that could listen to this. So, I want the lessons to be able to benefit anyone and not be so buried in mortgagees that other people wouldn't understand it. But I kind of want them to see who you are right now, and then we'll back up a little bit. So, like for example, your background is a little different than many.
Yeah.
Describe your background.
So this is my van. This is my office. Panel walls. I took this picture in Hawaii years ago. It's one of my favorites. I love the outdoors. Been a big fan of the van life movement. If I didn't have a family of 5, I would probably choose to live this way.
Nice.
It's been a blessing through shelter in place and COVID. I kind of did social distancing back in 2017. So yeah, I just always like saying I wonder and trying to figure out if things work. And if I fail, I fail, but you got to try. And this was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
I love that. So back up to I wonder.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit more. I want people to hear a little bit more about that. Give us some examples.
I think so. For me, I've always, if everyone else is going to go right, I'm going to go left. I've never liked doing what I don't like doing what I'm told, but not like in a rebellious way, but just because everyone does it one way doesn't mean it's the right way or the only way. And I think there's multiple ways to do things. So what I've always tried to do is say, I wonder if it has to be this way with any problem I'm coming up against is, could I do this different? And I have to try to find out. Like one of the first things I did that made me realize that is I was driving to the office in 2016 to do a pre-approval at night, going away from my family. I'm like, why am I going to the office right now? And it was, I needed 2 monitors. So I got to the office and just looked up on Amazon, USB portable monitor. And I found one, I ordered it. And that was kind of the first step in being a remote vagabond.
So good. Remote vagabond.
Because then I didn't have to work. I could work out of a backpack. I could work out of any coffee shop. I don't need to go to the office anymore.
Yep.
So it's just problems and solutions. And I've done a lot of things and failed. But I think that's really what it is for me is it's like, there's this gut feeling I think we have where we all come up with an idea or something we want to try. We find a lot of reasons not to do it. And you just have to kind of turn that off and go for it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Buddy, the world needs so much more Sean Herrero right now. I love that approach to life. I love that that's what drives you. And I love that whole, I wonder philosophy. We had a master's coach event years ago that we focused on what if.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the same thing. Yeah. Like, well, what if I didn't have to go to the office? And what if I could do this remotely? And what if I could work out of a van? So, okay. So in terms of volume, so that people sort of understand, like 2020 volume, give me units and dollar volume.
Oh, I'm always bad at this. I know dollars was 150 million units. I don't remember my unit count, to be honest, but I helped 100 people buy homes. That's
very cool.
I didn't really focus on the refinances as much because they won't always be here, but I helped exactly 100 people buy houses last year.
I love that.
Last month, I know those numbers. I did 31 units last month in January for just under 20 million. Barely missed it.
So cool.
Thank you.
Really proud of you, man. I mean, that's just smoking amazing. Yeah. So here's what I want people to know about you and I. So we met when you were a marketing guy, right?
Yep, correct.
You were not a producer.
No.
You were a marketing guy.
I was a business, like a recruiting and marketing. So my job was help people do more business, and bring more people to a company to help grow the company to do more business. That was my job.
Okay. So you were good at that. Good gig.
Also,
Something flipped in your head though, where you said, I mean, I don't know what went on, but there must have been an if only or a what if or a, what's yours again? Sorry.
I wonder. I always say what if as well.
I wonder what it would be like
Yeah.
if I was doing the volume. Like, so what was that, man, that flipped in your head when you made that decision?
So it was monetary to begin with. I thought I was good at it. The company I was doing it for no longer saw value in the position. And on Halloween of 2013, my income basically went from doing well because I had recruited and helped so many people to starting over. And that made me realize that being a producer, realtor, mortgage advisor, whatever, you're in control. Like what you get is what you give is what you get. And for me, it was dependent upon the work ethic of others. So even though I was doing a great job and I made the company a lot of money, they just turned it off. And so, but I'd done that role. I'd been a wholesale rep forever. And this is who I am. This is what I do. For at that point, it'd been 13 years.
Yep.
There was the fear of jumping into being an originator. So I struggled from 13, 14, 15, trying to make it work, going into more debt, just not, on the surface, it probably looked good. It didn't feel good. And in 2016, a company recruited me to do the same thing. Went to do that, same deal. They switched the game midstream. They weren't performing well. And then it was, Sean, you should be doing these things. And I'm like, but you guys aren't prepared. We can't support. There's no way to do it. And they, cut me at the knees too. And I'm like, I'm done. And in November, December of 2016, I told my wife, I'm like, I'm going to originate. I'm going to go be a mortgage advisor. I know that these concepts and ideas I'm trying to get other people to use will work. I just got to bet on myself. And she's like, that's a huge risk. Like it's not like we were set and we're in a solid financial position for a career change. And I just was like, in my heart, in my gut, that was it. Like, I'm done feeling this way. I'm not putting up with people or companies doing this anymore. I know there's value in what I do and how I do it. So I'll put my money where my mouth is.
So good.
January I did that. In February, I found out I was having a kid.
I hadn't thought about that timing. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. Well done. So I love that, man. Here's some other things I want people to know about you. Like, would you hold up your arms real quick? So full sleeves, right? You don't look like a typical mortgage banker. Activities that you enjoy, I don't know, you tell me. What do you like to do when you're not hanging out in the van writing loans?
Lately it's been shooting archery. I love shooting my bow. I love being outside. So freediving, spearfishing, rock climbing, trail running, just being active and outside is kind of what I love doing. Yeah.
So I didn't actually hear you mention golf.
That's archery for me. Golf isn't. I left my golf clubs at a golf course in Tahoe, I think 5 or 6 years ago, because I was like, I'm not going to need these anymore.
So I love the decisions and choices that you make, and you constantly reach out to me. People need to hear this with like, hey coach, like, love that post. Go rock climbing with me. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then when I did my one Spartan race, 5, almost 6 years ago, you were like, let's go do another one. And I'm like, one and done, baby. I retired. So I love that you continue to reach out to me, that Troops Direct, one of the charities that we both enjoy, you've been very involved in. And, we were talking about this event where it's like, oh, dude, we're going to be shooting 50 millimeters and jumping out of airplanes. And, there's all kinds of fun things that we can do. So you are not a guy who doesn't go after life with full gusto. You absolutely squeeze every ounce out of every day that you can. Do you not?
I try to. And I just feel like it goes back to the, I wonder, the what if. Like, spearfishing changed my life. And if I had never just said yes to that, where would I be? Right. I've tried golfing. I've tried it a bunch of times. It's just, I'm not good at it. And I don't, if I have 5 hours of free time, that's an hour drive to the ocean, 3 hours in the water, and an hour drive home. So if I can get away for 5 hours, I'd rather be in the ocean. So
tell us about spearfishing, because I have to imagine most people listening or watching right now are like, yeah, I know what it is, but I've never done that. Like, right. That's got to be a very small number. tell me about like how did that happen? Where somebody must have invited you somehow. The idea came about, and in what way did it change your life?
Yeah, so I met a friend, and when I was 17 in high school, I was roofer for a summer job, and the guy that I would drive back and forth was this guy named Josh Gregory, who he just told me about spearfishing. I didn't understand what it was. We were driving home. He's like, "How long can you hold your breath?" I'm like, "I don't even know," and he's like, "A minute?" And I'm like, "There's no way." He could hold his breath for like 5 minutes.
Wow.
And that just seemed impossible to me. So he told me what he did. And he started he had a small business. He was manufacturing spearfishing equipment at that time. And now it's one of the largest companies in that industry. And so we lost touch. 5 or 6 years later, I go to Hawaii with a friend of mine. We go lobster diving. I reach out to Josh. I'm like, "Hey, I went tested this a little bit. I want to go. I want to learn how to spearfish." He took me to Carmel. We went to Pebble Beach. So while you're playing, I'm out in the water.
Yeah, I saw you out there. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
So we go out, and I learned what being present means. When you're underwater, everything else melts away, and there's no scuba. So you're truly in the moment. You're holding your breath, and a minute became a very long time. I don't really ever try to dive past a minute because I don't want to black out, and you can do a lot in a minute.
Sure.
But just learning how long a minute was incredible. And it was one of those times where everything else just goes away. There is no work. There is no family. There's nothing else.
For sure.
You're just present. And that's what I love about rock climbing too. It's not about getting to the top. It's this, I just need to do this one move. And if I just get to this next, it's little things. And so I've kind of found that I'm addicted to those moments of being present, because with what we do for a living, it's not going to happen day to day. And so it just made me realize.
I love that
a lot. I learned a lot from that,
yeah.
from that one experience. And I mean, it was way easier to get fish too, because it didn't matter if they were hungry. We just got to bring them home. So that was nice.
Right.
But just freediving's an amazing, amazing thing. And just breath control, there's so many things you can do with your breath to relieve stress, and all these little things that I've learned through that sport that I use every single day.
It's really good. I think a lot of people have probably heard me talk about box breathing. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And the version that I quote, they call it the Navy SEAL technique, but it's supposed to be used for snipers, right? So that you can lower your heart rate and fire between breaths. But tell people about that right now, because there's somebody listening or watching that is probably very stressed right now. We're living in a time of high stress. How is that something that they could deploy and never go into the ocean, by the way, to relax themselves?
Yeah, so I do this all the time. So if I'm stressed or whatever, I'll just take a giant breath, just like that. And that is getting rid of all the CO2. So you're getting rid of that, and it lets more oxygen in. So just from a very simple, breathe up for freediving, it's very similar to box breathing. You breathe in through your nose, you want to fill the bottom of your lungs, because that's where your oxygen exchange happens. That's where you build oxygen. So you just inhale. I'm not as good through my nose, but you just breathe in, not overly full, and then it's a really slow exhale.
Yeah.
Until you kind of feel empty but not forced. And just doing that for 30 seconds, 1 minute, you'll feel stress melt away. It's incredible how well it works.
Yeah, I agree with you. So for those of you in the mortgage industry, share this with your processors, your underwriters, your LOAs, the people that are running your conveyor belt right now. They're stressed and they can use this.
Yeah, and it's people kind of, not that I'm at the office a lot, but when I am, it's I'll take these deep breaths, and it works. This is
cool.
With freediving, when you get in the water, we lift our mask off, you have submersed your face, it kicks in the mammalian dive reflex.
Yep.
And you can end up holding your breath far longer. So we all have this ability to breathe, and there's so many things that have been done on breathing now, but I learned it through freediving.
Nice. Very cool. There's somebody's watching this right now that knows the guy that I'm talking about, that I won't call out, but smoker, probably 35. Dude, he's a free diver. Free diver, like the guys that go deep with the big fins, that he smokes.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Anyway, just somebody knows who I'm talking about right now, and it's pretty funny because this guy he is bigger than life for sure. All right, hey, let's talk about business, because you were in and around the business. You were in the wholesale business. You got into kind of the business marketing side of business, biz dev. Then you got into production, into direct production. And in our business, in the mortgage industry, there's all kinds of ways to generate leads, right? You can go to work for a company who generates leads, and then you convert those leads. Hopefully you can generate your own leads. You can generate refi leads, purchase leads, to your point. I love the distinction that you made about helping people to buy homes. You know, at a time when most of the real estate industry, if you ask most realtors right now, like, what's your biggest problem? They're all going to say the same thing. There's not enough inventory. Right. So I'd like you to kind of riff a little bit on your rhythm right now. Like, I know you well enough to know that you're tracking your stuff. Where are your leads coming from? And by the way, leads are just people, right? People that are interested. So where's that start for you?
So now where it started. So January of 2017 was my first month originating, as a mortgage advisor. My best friends are in the mortgage industry. My mom's in the mortgage industry. So friends and family was kind of not going to happen. So I had to start with realtor referrals. So I like speaking, being a wholesale rep. I'm used to talking to a bunch of people at once. So I would book appointments at real estate companies, knowing if I can get in front of 10, 20 people, I'm going to make connections with somebody. And so I did that. And in March, I funded $4 million in March. Nothing in January 2017, nothing in February, $4 million in March. And it was just by really focusing on purchase, because that's all I had. What I've done is continue to do that, right? It works well. And I don't like asking for business. I like providing value. So I want to help people learn to do things that I might know how to do that they don't. I love problem solving. So it all comes down to just making sure I can provide realtors with what they need and help them do more business.
So good, man.
Just connect. You make good connections with people you like. And there's people that, we don't connect, and that's totally fine. I have no problem. If somebody doesn't want to work with me, that's fine. What happened last year, or I guess 2019. So July of 2019 is kind of when the whole first little refi boom kicked off.
Yep.
All I had was my database. So I went back to them and I refinanced probably the majority of them. And it's like, okay, well, this is over now. And I just didn't have the depth that a lot of people have.
Sure.
But I've gotten a lot of referrals. So my past clients are referring me more and more. I got one from Nextdoor yesterday, which I didn't know what Nextdoor was. I thought that was just
nice.
Yeah, my wife sold couches. I didn't know what that was.
Yep.
YouTube.
So before you move off that, I just want to make sure that everybody hears you on that, because Nextdoor is brilliant, right? It's a hyper local app that you can talk about anything. I mean, I see stuff go by on my phone. My wife sees it. I just see it go by and very seldom pay attention. But it's like, oh, we saw a snake in the neighborhood. Hey, does anybody have a babysitter? I got a bike that I want to sell. Hey, what's up with the cars racing on the street? I need a handyman. So it's kind of what used to happen over backyard fences and even neighborhood newsletters when I first got into the business, but it's automated. So that means if you didn't know what it was, that means it happened organically, obviously, right?
Yeah. So I got a phone call. She said she saw my videos, and I'm like, okay. So she went to YouTube, and I asked him, like, hey, I'm just curious. You said you watched my videos. How did you find those? And She's like, well, I wanted someone local, and she's like, I started on Yelp, and then I asked for recommendations on Nextdoor, and somebody, I don't know who, somebody said something,
So cool.
and then she's like, I watched your videos. And I love doing the videos. And Coach, you've been on this for everyone. Like,
dude, you're so good at it.
Video,
yep.
It just lets everyone know if I'm the right guy or not without even meeting.
Totally.
So I've been trying to build a decent library on YouTube. So it's not one place. It's just these activities that might seem pointless. And like, I'm making these videos and it's not going anywhere, but they become valuable to one person here and one person there. And then that kind of grows itself.
So let's talk about the videos, Sean, because it is, I mean, first of all, most people just get hung up here. Like, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. I have bad news for you, as I generally tell people. That's the way you look. That's the way you sound. Now, with Sean, in fact, he's 300 pounds and very unattractive. So I don't know what kind of filters you use, but it's very impressive. Yeah. But once you kind of get past that hurdle, right now it's content. So what am I going to talk about? And that's the thing that I know you have a great marketing mind, and I've seen the ads with the images with you with the cardboard signs, right, which I love. But I would love for you to just encourage people a little bit. Like, what is your experience? That woman that found you on Nextdoor went to your YouTube channel. like what might she see? What's there? If people went to your, and they should, your YouTube channel and check it out, what will they see there?
So what I try to do is that I don't want to make videos about me. I want to make it about them. And it started with people, first time buyers. I work primarily, every home buyer I work with, it's their first time. They have a lot of questions. And if they don't have a lot of questions, I want to create a lot of questions because I want them to be really smart when they make this purchase. Well, I was answering the same questions over and over. And I thought, if everyone's asking me this, that means there's people I'm not speaking to that probably have this on their mind. I'll just make a video about it. And I started putting them on YouTube. And then, so if I get questions, I'll do that. I really love calling out my industry for its nonsense. I don't like sales. I like service. So I'll put out videos that explain how a no-cost refi actually works versus yes, we're giving you something for free.
Right.
It's free. So I want people to understand how things work and get past gimmicks and games and be really smart, whether they work with me or someone else.
Nice. Yeah. Well done, man. Well done.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the cardboard sign,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta explain that one a little bit. What'd you do there?
So that was an I wonder. There's an Instagram, what is it called? The Sign Guy, I think. So there's an Instagram page where a guy would hold up cardboard as like in protest, right? So timing was well last year for this.
Yep.
And in protest, and it would be funny things that we all think about, right? So it's the comedian thing. It's funny because it's true. And he had these signs for it. And what happened last year when the market started skyrocketing, every single phone call was, what if the property doesn't appraise? Right. There's a huge misconception about how that works. So I just got to this point of frustration of like answering the same question over and over. And I happened to see that on Instagram about the same time. And I was like, I wonder if this will be funny. So I put it out there, made a sign. I think it said, stop asking me what happens if it doesn't appraise. Right. And then it gave me an opportunity to write up a write-up of, hey, all kidding aside, this is how it works.
So good.
It got super good response. So the social media is very honest. If you put up content that has no value, you'll learn because there's no engagement at all.
Totally.
So if you're not getting engagement, what you're talking about, you might love it, but it might not be what everyone else wants.
So smart. Such a great observation. Yep.
So I was just like, I'm going to run with this. I'll try and do this a couple times a week. And I did one on VA loans. Stop looking for houses if you're not pre-approved. Like these things that if you're in real estate or mortgage, they're funny because we all go through it.
Sure.
And it just helped to help me make a point in a more, funnier way, I guess. Just a way to get people to look at the information to attract them, basically. And it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And eventually I stopped doing it just because it was I'll do this tomorrow, and tomorrow never came, but it was fun.
Well, you now have imitators. I don't know if you know this or not, but nationally there are people that are doing what you're doing. And I suppose that, maybe they just came up with that on their own, but more likely they saw your stuff or it was shared. And, what a cool compliment, right? It's like, cool. Other people are doing that. Yeah. Fair enough. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So I have a question for you, and there's no easy way for me to do this visually other than just show you on my phone, hold it up to the camera. And you said you haven't been on social much lately, so you probably didn't see this, but it says how the listing agent looks at the buyer's agents in this market, right?
I did see that one.
Yeah. Now, why is that funny?
Because there's zero inventory, worse than ever. I signed for my personal purchase today. I closed tomorrow.
Wow.
So I just went through it. And, remember the Just for Hair guy? I'm not only the president, I'm also a client.
Right.
I just went through it myself.
You're that guy. Yeah.
And that's been a big part of what I've done to help realtors is I call it the psychology of the seller. So everything is put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's not about me, buyer, not about you. You got to make it about the seller. So what does the seller want? We have to start there because every offer is 15 offers. Like my house had 15 offers. I had to match the top offer, which was all cash, non-contingent. And I am not all cash. And I had to go up 100,000 higher than I wanted to. But I have a lot of reasons why I went through a lot of work to make sure that was a good decision. Yeah. And that's what I do for everybody. Yeah. So you have to just understand it's competitive and everybody it's supply and demand. It's the most basic example of supply and demand. And so it's, what if I overpay? Yeah. What do you mean by that? 35 people want the house. We had one that had 50 offers in the town that I live in. Sure. And it's not uncommon. So I look at it as my job it's not interest rate. It's, rates are a commodity, rates, fees, kind of all the same. Like we're not really looking at anything there. I have to make my client's offer stand out in the crowd. I have to get the seller's attention. I have to make sure the listing agent knows that I am the best lender that they've looked at. So I always say lenders are the biggest variable in the transaction. The reason sellers and listing agents love cash is because we screw up all the time. Like we've created that reputation.
Eliminates the variable. Yep.
Yeah. So look, I'm not a variable. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know how to underwrite. We've gone through everything. Like every single offer, I'm making a video and making that phone call. And I've even had to shift how and when I do that because I was doing these videos, they weren't getting the attention that they used to. So do I just stop doing it, or do I analyze why and try something else?
Nice.
So I don't win every time, but I like to think that I win more often than most by overcoming, psychology of the seller. What's the seller want? What does the listing agent want? I got to start there. And It's hard. It's not fun. Like this is not a fun market to be a buyer in. Personally, I had to close in 2 weeks. I had to be non-contingent. It's not fun, but the reward is well worth it. Like I'm so excited. I've never been excited about a house before. I'm so excited for this and for my family. Like it's the perfect house. So it's been fun to go through the motions myself because I think it's going to make me better for my clients.
So to that point, I want to challenge you, if you've not already done it, to record a video of you in front of, inside of, sitting on your drone, whatever it is that you're going to do. But tell that story, right? Because to your point, if the hero of your story is the buyer or the seller, but not you, then put yourself in those shoes, Sean, because you've got a great story right now, particularly if you're working with a lot of, first-time home buyers. You're a young guy, a family of 5, like this is a big deal for you. And you'll be remembering the memories that you create in that home with this ridiculous interest rate for the rest of your lives.
Right.
I mean, yes, it was a hassle, but I mean, whatever. On the other side of it, so was childbirth for your wife, right? But apparently she keeps having them. So
now we're done.
Right. Okay. Well, but you had some, and my point simply is like, you've got a cool story to tell, and I would love for you to share it. I have one last question for you on kind of that topic. I know Dave Savage interviewed you recently on Mortgage Coach, and I have to confess I haven't watched it yet. And I'm so sorry because I want to see what Dave pulled out of you. But what I'm curious about is if you saw this guy, Bibel, I think, Bibel, did you see this guy talking about the refi or sell now scenario?
I have not seen that. I've heard Dave's told me about it, but I have not. I'm guilty of not looking into it.
So, well, no worry. I mean, look, we all have, so much content that we can absorb. And I realize that's kind of, the issue as a coach. I hear it every day and I live it as well. But here's my question. It just got me thinking this idea. So what he would do is he said, I will have a conversation with a refi prospect. And at some point, I'll just ask the question, how's your home working for you? And invariably, it's like, well, I mean, we're in lockdown, like we could use another bedroom, an home office. Love it if we were in a neighborhood where we could walk with the kids at night that had a sidewalk, whatever it is. And so he just sort of introduces the topic, like, well, have you considered that in this low rate environment, you've been in your home for 14 years, which by the way is the average. Like I just saw that in the Wall Street Journal recently. The average homeowner stays in their home for 14 years now, Sean. When I got into the business, it was every 5 to 7. People moved 30 years ago every 5 to 7 years. Now it's 14 years and growing, believe me, because people are putting roots down. Like I don't want to go to the grocery store. Why would I want to go through the hassle of selling my home? But he opens up dialogue, I don't know, 20% of the time where somebody's like, interesting. Well, I mean, now that you ask, it's kind of what you do. He sort of interviews them like, well, if you could find a house on the bluffs with a western view, 1 story, I mean, we'd have a conversation about it. And so then he's talking to his realtors and, he becomes sort of this puzzle maker. And I mean, I imagine this kind of, if you're interviewing your people, as I know you are, this must come up, right? Mm-hmm. Like these situations happen to you?
Yeah, so I think I do it. It happens, but it's not, I don't have that exact same intention. So I use Mortgage Coach religiously. I'm a visual learner and I want people to see the data. I don't want anyone to make a decision on my personal opinion. let's look at the data. I'll tell you what I think. Now you decide.
Nice.
So every time when I'm helping people refi, I'll talk people out of refinancing a lot. Because if you're not intending to be here for a certain amount of time, just because you're saving money monthly doesn't mean that you're saving money, right?
Sure.
There are costs involved. I don't care what anyone says. There's no such thing as free. So let's really analyze this.
Yep.
So I do a 3-year and 5-year short-term view. And if they're like, well, I don't know, we're out of here in 12 months. I just had a realtor do this, actually. I have a realtor who I was refinancing. She says, we want to buy another house. Pre-approve us. I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to cancel out this refi then. She's like, no, we still want to refi. I'm like, no, we're not refinancing anymore. It doesn't make sense. You're going to move. Your break-even point's 12 months away. You're not going to be here in 12 months. So you're not going to break even.
Good for
you.
you.
If you're going to break even, what's the point?
Totally.
She's like, Sean, my husband wants to refinance. And I'm like, I appreciate that. I'm still not going to let you guys. And we went through it. And at the end of the day, if they're like, Sean, thanks, but just do our loan, I would have done it. But we have to look at it from all sides. So I think it's not as intentional. I love the way David told me about that. And I honestly forgot about it. Mine's not with the same intention, but just do the right thing. Like, I think everything just comes down to like, what's the goal?
Totally.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting in a world where that little meme that I showed you makes everybody in real estate laugh. Why is that funny? It's in the same way that your cardboard sign, about appraisals was funny. It's like, well, why is that? And what is behind that we can, and so here's my conviction, right? This is just, seasoned old gray-haired coach saying, I think we have a responsibility in the mortgage industry. I think we can help stimulate more activity by opening up more conversations about people's options. I'm not saying force somebody to do something they shouldn't do. That's not it. It's more like, have you thought about this? This might be a really cool time. Because here's what I think, Sean. I think we're going to see rates probably pretty stable through 2021. I think there's a pretty good chance we'll see a rate increase in 2022. At some point, people are going to look in the rearview mirror, and it'd be like GameStop, right? It'd be like, or GameStop. Did you get any of that? Did you buy it at 100? Did you buy it at 80, at 200? Like what? At some point, some people are going to ask them, like, what'd you do during the pandemic and these sub 3% interest rates? We refied. Okay. Yeah. Or like you, I've got a house I'm really excited about. Like we did something really special, changed our lifestyle. Wow.
It's funny you said 14 years because I was in my last house for exactly 14 years.
It's hysterical.
Yeah. And we sold it with the intention of moving to Southern California. With everything going on, it's not going to happen. My wife's whole family's here. So I was like, look, if we're not going to move, let me know. I mean, let's burst the bubble. And we found an awesome house and I had to win. That's how I went into it was I have to win. But that was one of my exercises was when we got pushed up higher, my wife's crying and so we're doing that video together. I told her this morning, hey, we just signed our loan docs. This is all real now. You're going to have to do it stories to selling.
So good. Right? So good. I love it. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. So the long story short is she's crying for two reasons. One, we lost. We're not going to get this house. And two, I can't believe if we want the house, we have to pay that much more.
Yeah.
And I used Mortgage Coach for myself. And I said, if I could find a house that was $100,000 less, but interest rates were back to the levels of last year, I'm paying $100 more a month. It on all sides didn't make sense. So if you're paying cash, great. Right. Price matters. Totally. If you're not, your cost of money matters more than the price of your house.
Absolutely.
And it's a house I'm happy to be stuck in for 5 to 10 years.
So cool. So cool.
It was fun to go through the exercise, and it's like every little trick that I use for everyone else, I'm like, okay, so this is all worth it. So
work for me.
Yeah.
Well, I love that you have a heart for this, man. I've always loved your heart. I love your zeal. You're welcome, buddy. I love your energy. I love the way that you focus on experiences and the quietness of the moment, appreciating 60 seconds. I love the way that you love on your family. You're a force of nature, brother. And I love, that I got a chance to share with you with some people that might not have been exposed to you. So thanks today. If there was one last thought that you had, knowing that, this is our focus, right? Like if you're going to encourage somebody right now who's not all in their health and their relationship and their experiences and their business, like what would be your encouragement to that person in terms of making a decision about engaging differently?
We have to look at what we call reasons for why we fail, or really just excuses. You have to start, if something's making you unhappy in your life, you have to change it. No one else is going to do it. Complaining about it's not going to do anything. So you jump. Like take
Right
that
on.
leap of faith and go with that gut instinct. Because what I've learned, really, I truly was like in a bad spot. We sold our house because I didn't have a choice. It wasn't like, hey, that was
Yep.
part of it, right? And I wanted to move, but
Sure.
it wasn't fun. And we took a leap, and the last 18 months have been absolutely incredible. Everything we have wanted has lined up, but it wasn't the secret where you just put it out there. It's a grind. I get up at 4 a.m. every day. I'm working hard. I'm making a sacrifice. Like I might not have the life balance that I want to right now, but it's all for good reason. And I'm happy to make that sacrifice. So
Good for you.
go with the gut. Like that's all I can really come back to is I bought a van and it worked. I did a cardboard sign thing and it worked. What didn't work? There's a bunch of things that haven't worked, but I try not to focus on what doesn't work. Like focus on the wins, not the losses.
Totally. That's great, man. Great advice. I think it was Josh Metal that said you're welcome, and he may have been quoting somebody else, but I remember Josh telling me at some point, guy that owns 300 rental units, he said, I made a decision to live like nobody else does so that I can live like nobody else does.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal. That's what you just said.
Yeah, and that's isn't that a Navy SEAL thing? Mark Devine says that from SEAL Fit.
Maybe that's where it came from.
Isn't that what it is? Today we'll do what others won't, so tomorrow we can have what others won't. Something like that. I can't remember. But
totally. That's it. There's a positive and a negative way to phrase it, but don't be a sheep. And I love that you said it in the beginning that you're a bit of a contrarian. It's like I look at where everybody else is going, and then I go the other way, right? Like I'm guessing right now, I'm going to leave you with this thought. In the mortgage industry, here's what managers are saying. Go call on realtors. Call 30 realtors every Monday. I'm guessing that's not what you're doing.
I hate that. I've never done it. It's disingenuous. That's the other thing I'd say is be yourself, be authentic.
Be yourself.
Every lender's calling 30 or 40 realtors every Monday to set coffee appointments and tell me what you like so I can, it's a line. Nobody wants to be sold.
Totally.
Be authentic and it'll go far further and you'll find better relationships faster.
Well, in a world of inauthenticity, you are remarkably authentic, and I love it about you. It's hugely attractive. Keep being Sean Herrero. Of all the Sean Herreros I know, you're the best one.
Thank you.
Like by far.
No, thank you. Bill,
Good
I'm
hanging with
really
you
happy
today,
to
my
do
friend.
this. Like
it's fun.
I know there's other people that are kind of in my same shoes.
Totally.
And I want my life to be better, but I'm scared. I just think you got to jump. It really worked out well for me. So.
Well, may you have encouraged somebody today to make that jump, make that leap, trust themselves, be authentic, and ask the question, I wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done, my friend. Thanks for today.
Thank you. All right, brother. Thanks again.
See you, buddy.
Appreciate it.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye.